Thank you and welcome everyone for joining today's webinar on growing healthy eaters, cooking with kids through a developmentally informed lens. So before we jump in today's webinar, I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Trisha Bautista, Programs Director here at the National Farm to School Network. This is a webinar co-hosted by NFSN and our NFSN partner, Dr. Yum Project. Before we jump in today's webinar and hear more from Dr. Fernando of the Dr. Yum Project, I'm just going to share really briefly here about the National Farm to School Network in case some of you are not familiar with our organization. So NFSN envisions a nation in which farm to school and early care education is an essential component of local and regional food systems. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but we are a hub for resources, networking, and advocacy. We work to connect people to resources. We have a plethora of resources on our website, many of which are contributed by our partners and things that we've, co-developed over time through many different projects. We definitely, something I love doing in this work is connecting people to each other. We do a lot of network gatherings and webinars such as this. We have community of practice convenings, which are usually tied to a specific project. Some of you may be aware of our Farm to School Coordinator Community of Practice that we just launched last week. And then maybe some of you have attended our National Farm to Cafeteria just a month ago, which feels so long ago. But yeah, we love hosting these gatherings and connecting folks across the farm to school and ECE movement. And finally, we also connect people to policy and advocacy. So NFSN is also a network of over 500 partner organizations from across all states, including U.S. territories and sovereign nation. When I first joined the National Farm to School Network, we were at about 200 or so partner organizations. So it's really beautiful to see this network grow. And we have a number of representatives from K-12 school sites and early care education centers. Dr. Yum Project is actually one of our partner organizations, and this is really such a delight to be able to showcase the amazing work that they're doing for food education. So to start off, many of you may have seen this diagram already, but these are just the core elements of farm to early care education and farm to school. Farm to school can look different in many different communities, but essentially they have these three components. So starting with gardens, these are, the opportunities to engage kiddos, their families and communities with hands-on learning opportunities, learning how to grow food, getting their hands dirty, and being able to learn ways to care for our land. Education, this is going to be the main focus of our webinar today, and these are opportunities to integrate food, nutrition, curriculum into the classroom that's aligned with specific standards, or ways to really align that with specific topics like language arts or social studies. But these are the ways that we incorporate food education in the classroom. And then last but not least, procurement. So this pillar of farm to school and ECE really focuses on having ECE sites and school sites purchase, serve, and promote local foods, and also foster those relationships, right, with our farmers and producers. So why farm to ECE? Why farm to school and ECE? Farm to ECE is a win for kids, farmers, and communities. This is a framing that we like to say at NFSN. First, kids, because it really strengthens, that learning through hands-on food experiences and encourages kids to eat more fruits and vegetables. This is a win for farmers because it creates that reliable values-aligned markets that provide stable income and diversify sales, and also supports a lot of small and mid-sized farms. In our conference last month, we had a lot of farmers and producers, and we had some procurement-based workshops. And so there are many ways that we can be supporting and engaging our farmers in this movement. And last but not least, communities win because it engages the broader community with these kinds of food education, community engagement efforts, and encourages farmers to reinvest in their local communities and keeps that food dollar within the local community. And then just to get into the more of the benefits of farm to school and ECE. And I think this is a really good segue to what we'll be hearing more from Dr. Fernando with the Dr. Yum project. So Farm to ECE really looks at and provides that benefit of supporting healthy brain development. So exposure to food-based and experiential learning environments through farm to school and ECE has really been linked to improve cognitive development. And I know we'll hear more about what that looks like from Dr. Fernando about sort of how food education really supports child and brain development. Another is regulate emotions and support social skills. So Farm to ECE can incorporate routine, instill the importance of responsibility, social skills through peer interaction, and helps improve behavior, really teaching kids the value of teamwork and working together, but making it fun through food education and garden-based education. And then finally here, what we have on our list, we also have a very robust benefits of farm to school and ECE fact sheet on our website, but I just really want to quickly touch on these items here. Education and enhance opportunities for educational experiences. Farm to ECE showcases real world contexts, such as what it's like to support our natural environment and our food system, and really strengthens their ability to problem solve, supports diverse learning skills, and has the capacity to encourage young minds to serve as environmental stewards. So yeah, with that, I'm going to kind of pause here for a little bit. We have about, and still growing, about 107 folks in the room. And I wanted to see, so I'm about to release a poll asking which best describes your role or interest. So this is a really good opportunity for us to see and help our presenters for today see who's in the room and what roles you all play. So my question is, which best describes your role or interest? I just want to, it seems like it's already working here. I'm seeing some folks answer, but if you are not seeing that poll, feel free to just share your response in the chat. But the options are ECE education, ECE site staff or educator, K-12 school staff or educator, community organization member, city, state, or federal agency member, farmer producer, registered dietitian. Just wanted to get a chance to see here who's in the room. And if none of these options work for you, please feel free to share your role in the chat. It'll be really helpful to see who's in the room. Well, thank you all so much for participating. Keep them coming. And if you didn't get the chance to introduce yourself, please do so in the chat, share your name and where you're calling in from. I'm going to end our poll here. To share where we're at on the results. All right. I'm so excited to now segue us into the main part of our webinar, which is hearing from the Dr. Yum project. Dr. Nimali Fernando is a board-certified pediatrician and the founder of the nonprofit, the Dr. Yum Project. She is also the co-author of the award-winning book, quote, Raising a Healthy, Happy Eater. She is the co-creator of Dr. Yum's Food Adventure, a research-backed nutrition curriculum that teaches young children to enjoy fruits and vegetables, and of Touch Points, which is a family-centered intensive health behavior and lifestyle program for children. Her food as medicine approach has been featured nationally in the New York Times, NBC Nightly News, and Voice of America. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Dr. Fernando. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Tricia, for putting together such a robust event. It's so awesome to see so many participants, and it's fun to see your roles too. I've been a pediatrician for 26 years, but as I get deeper into this work, I feel like the people on this call, the registered dietitians, the educators, administrators, these are really my people. So it's so nice to be with you. I'm going to be talking today about the Food Adventure, which is a program that we have been implementing for many years, and some of the unique ways that we work with children, but also the beautiful ways that we can really support farm to ECE initiatives. And hoping that you guys will learn a little bit today and enjoy some of the work that we've experienced over these years. So just so that you know, we are a nonprofit organization. I'm
Oh,
here with my
Dr. Fernando?
co-founder. Yes.
Sorry, do you mind? I think your screen share ended. If you just
Oh,
screen share.
huh.
Thank you.
Let's try that again. Is that helping? Is that right? Working? Yes. Okay. So we're a nonprofit organization and we are founded in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I'm actually here with my co-founder, Heidi DiEugenio, and hopefully we can answer questions at the end for you. So I wanted to just ground us a little bit in the real life concerns that preschool parents come to a pediatrician for every day. And I said, I've been a pediatrician now for over 2 decades. I get a lot of panicked calls from preschool parents who worry about one of three things. The first is behavior. I get a lot of 911 calls, like, we just don't know what to do in preschool. The teachers aren't sure how to help their behavior. There's a lot of outbursts. We're not sure what to do. We need your help. That happens literally weekly. The other concern is learning, right? Preschool is this natural segue to kindergarten, and there's this implied set of developmental skills that kids need going into kindergarten. And I get a lot of panicked calls about the idea that we're not meeting those developmental milestones. We're not ready for kindergarten. We're just not learning and we don't know what to do. And then the last panicked call that I get a lot of is about food, right? We have this picky eater and they don't eat the foods in school, and I need a note or some way to communicate that I need to send school food or food into school, or we need a special diet. So as you can imagine, these are complicated questions that I have that often don't have a straightforward answer and need a lot of care and attention and empathy in talking to families. But I see these themes over and over, and this is a lot of what has informed our approach to teaching kids nutrition in schools. So I want to also ground us in development, child development, using a parallel area of development that all educators know, and that is reading. We have a framework on how we teach kids to read. We use proven techniques. First, teachers need to know how to read, and then they need to know these techniques to be able to teach to students. We want parents to be reinforcing skills at home. We want libraries with a variety of books to offer kids a lot of different reading experiences. We understand that the timeline for some children may be quick, but for others, it may take many years. There's a lot of heterogeneity in how children develop, and reading is a great example of that. And then we want to make sure that those kids who are struggling are given a plan to support them and uplift them and to finally get them across the finish line without labeling. Right? So we never want to call a child a bad reader if they're struggling. We simply want to get them through the finish line, and that may take testing. It may take getting a reading specialist on board. It may take a lot of support, but we get them eventually to the finish line. So if we can think about reading when we're thinking about nutrition and what we call feeding, right? Feeding is also a developmental process, and it's quite complicated. And as a young pediatrician early in my career, I didn't quite understand this myself with all the education and training I had around children. But it really is. Feeding is a developmental process that requires fine motor skills. Think about babies picking up their first foods, gross motor skills, getting them to sit in a chair with a lot of support, oral motor skills, those chewing and swallowing skills, language, cognitive skills, taste training, right? All of that goes into raising a great eater. And so if we can imagine feeding in the same way as reading, then we can develop a framework that helps support all kids, right? So we would train teachers using proven techniques. We would make sure parents are reinforcing skills. We would hope that there are a variety of quality foods that children have exposure to so they can practice their feeding skills. And then we would understand that rather than labeling children as picky eaters when they're not progressing, we would get them to the finish line by identifying them early, getting them the support that we need, using proven techniques, and doing that in an uplifting, joyful way without labeling and stigmatizing. So that was our goal in creating the food adventure. We know that learning to eat takes practice, right? We know this as a community that we are. We need kids to really be exposed to novel foods, and it takes a lot of exposures. 2 to 47 exposures is the range for most kids. That can be even more for kids who may have sensory or developmental challenges. The average exposures needed for a novel food is 10 to 15. But the average American family only exposes a child 3 to 5 times. And it's no wonder. First of all, a lot of families don't know how many times that it takes, and a lot of families may find that to be a big barrier. That many resources to expose kids to foods that many times can be particularly hard. So let's think about then who might be the kids who are at risk for difficulties with acquiring these feeding skills, what I call the learned development of feeding. And I think about the learned development of feeding as a stool with 3 legs, and 3 legs that need to be equally sturdy. So the first is the way that a child's brain functions, and that includes their sensations, the way they process those sensations, their learning, their emotions, and their memories. The other is the way a child's body functions. So the way their anatomy, their physiology is, the way their motor skills work, the way their organs function, the way they swallow and digest. So there are a lot of kids that may fall into these 2 categories where brain and body function may be disrupted. Think about kids with autism, kids who are premature and are at risk for acid reflux. These are kids that may really have difficulty establishing these skills. And that is a lot of kids. If we think about all the spectrum of kids that may have difficulties with brain and body function. But then there's this third leg of the stool, and that is the environment. We know that kids need a lot of practice to be able to learn a new skill. And so they need consistent access to novel foods. And for kids who have difficulty with access, families who may not have the resources or exposure to these foods, that they may have difficulty with affordable housing, to have the kitchen equipment to create these novel meals with novel foods. And then they may also not have the family support, because cooking these meals and exposing these foods takes a lot of family resources. So that can really disrupt that learned development of feeding. Just one leg of the stool. If you think about it, though, sometimes disrupting one leg of the stool can disrupt the other legs of the stool. So if a child, for instance, is exposed to periods of hunger, that may affect their sensations and their learning, their cognitive development, and it also may affect how they process food, right? And so that can really lead to this very disrupted learned development of feeding. And if we think about these 3 categories, this is becoming a larger and larger problem in our preschoolers. So hopefully that grounds us in development. And I wanted to just kind of go through our experience with doing these robust cooking and developmentally informed nutrition lessons in the centers where we've been implementing now in 43 states, a diverse array of early care and education centers. And now we're even tipping into kindergarten as well. And so thinking about development and sort of the common day-to-day issues that parents of preschoolers are experiencing, we brought together this team of experts, including pediatricians, feeding therapists, dietitians, and many childhood educators to inform our approach. And this is the current edition of Dr. Yum's Food Adventure. It's the 8th edition. We really rely heavily on the feedback of early childhood educators who are implementing the program to give us feedback. And with every edition, we improve the number of resources, the flexibility, the ease of implementation. And we're really proud of this 8th edition that we released this past summer. So what is the food adventure exactly? So we basically have these 24 adventures that we offer teachers after a robust training period where we give teachers the understanding of feeding development and the tools on how to problem solve picky eating behaviors in real time. We give them these 24 adventures that feature a fruit or vegetable each month. And it is a diverse array of different fruits and vegetables so that for different communities, they may be able to even use locally sourced ingredients and choose from those ingredients that are easy to find in their community. So the first part of the lesson is a sensory exploration of the fruit or vegetable using all of the senses, but not taste yet. So we save that for later because we want these kids to be confident in using their other senses before we potentially overwhelm them with tasting. So we may touch a fruit or vegetable, we may smell it, we may appreciate it using language to describe it. We're doing all of these things, smelling it, so that we're making friends with the fruit or vegetable. We're talking about how it grows, which really aligns with Farm to ECE, learning which parts of the fruit or vegetable we're eating. And we use my munch bug, which is a fun little character that is often found in the illustrations of our food adventure lesson to show how they're enjoying the fruit or vegetable. And then as part of the lesson in circle time, we're also celebrating the superpowers of food. So our registered dietitian examined all of our fruits and vegetables and found those of the 10 superpowers where there's more than 10% of the RDA. And that is listed as a superpower for that food. So we have vitamins, minerals, and fiber. And through a series of call and response chants that teachers can do, they may learn that vitamin C fights germs, that vitamin K heals your cuts and scrapes, folate helps you grow. And kids really love this. A lot of kids really point back to the superpowers. They're excited to learn about them. They're motivated to, eat their kiwis because it's going to heal their cuts and scrapes. We've heard so many fun anecdotes about how the superpowers are really inspiring kids. And then an extension of circle time is provided as well for teachers who want extra activities that they can use to support art, literature, or literacy, movement, music, science, community, and around the world. So global food traditions. And these are optional activities, but it really supports the teacher in that they don't have to go to Pinterest or online to find these extra activities. They can find all of these ways to inspire kids to feel confident about foods in all of these fun ways. So here's an example in our pepper lesson. The science extension activity is a seed estimating activity where kids will pull out the seeds, they'll guess how many seeds and then pull them out and they may count them. And there's a lot of learning for you educators. You can imagine how many skills are happening and how much sensory experience is happening in this activity. So here's some other activities. There's growing activities that kids can do even if if the center doesn't have a garden. There are things that they can do. Art activities, some using food, some using traditional art materials. So we provide a variety of these. And then we really feel it is important to take advantage of kids' natural curiosity of food and expose them to food traditions from around the world. So we have even adapted some food tradition from our participating schools. This is one from Southeast Alaska that we brought into our berry lesson. And it's a fun way to show kids that sometimes we have different food traditions and sometimes we eat the same foods, but in different ways. We brought in this food passport activity into our instructor portal this year. This is an activity we have done in our teaching kitchen for many years. And it really is a fun, motivating way to explore foods. Teachers can help kids make their own passports and then provide a stamp or a sticker as kids are exploring foods, either with their senses or by tasting. And it's something they can take home with them ultimately and continue to document their adventures. So that's sort of the sensory exploration part of the lesson. The other part is the cooking part. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of continued sensory exploration as we're cooking too, but there's also a lot of development that's happening and being practiced as they cook. So here's some of the ways that kids can work on development. There are a lot of different activities. One thing that we really highlight in our curriculum is chopping foods. We include a very special steel knife that is very safe for preschoolers to use and very effective. And kids really feel very empowered. They feel like they're real chefs when they're using these knives. It's very easy to show them how to use them. And then it really translates into future safe knife skills when they are transitioning to a real kitchen knife. We also highlight a lot of social emotional development that's happening. So brave eaters helping more sensitive eaters is something that we see very often. We also see how kids are building a resilience around food as they're trying food, because a lot of kids are experiencing these foods for the first time in their classroom, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. But if we're giving them the language and the approach of showing them that they can try new foods, it can really show them that they can be resilient and overcome their fear of foods. We talk a lot about the growth mindset as we train our teachers around how to talk about food. So we give them a lot of language in their training. Some of the language that we might train them to model is to not be rude to food, to use kind words when you're talking about food or other people's food preferences. We show them too that instead of saying that we don't like a food or using unkind or harder words around foods, that you can say that you don't care for it yet and that you're still practicing. And that goes back to this growth mindset. We actually developed this score called the Yum Score. And so when kids are trying food, they can either point to a face or show their teachers or describe how they are experiencing the food using their senses. And instead of saying that they don't like it, they may first experience it as a not yet. And that shows them that this is a journey that they need to keep practicing, and then eventually it will become okay, and then even a yum or a super yum. And you'll hear the students really modeling that language. We've gone to a lot of schools and we hear the kids saying, you know what? That strawberry is really sour. I guess I have to keep practicing it. They pick this language up. And a lot of teachers tell us that they generalize that language and growth mindset to other skills that they are developing, whether it's tying their shoes or learning their numbers. So we love that food can really provide the foundation for this growth mindset. This is an example of how our curriculum aligns with early learning standards. These are the Head Start Early Learning Outcome Framework standards that we have aligned with. And you can see a lot of Head Start teachers really do love that as they are teaching the food adventure in that typical once a month exposure, they are also meeting so many of the learning outcome standards. We've done a lot to be very mindful and intentional about our recipes that are included in each adventure. As they are exposed to a new fruit or vegetable, we want them to also be exposed to different tastes and temperatures and flavors and preparations. And we worked really hard over 10 years within our own teaching kitchen to hone these recipes to be very easy chop and stir recipes that don't require a lot of specialized kitchen equipment. Most of the schools can easily prepare these recipes within a classroom as long as there's a sink for hand washing nearby. And then my co-author, Coach Melanie Potok, is a feeding therapist, and she has really done a lot to help teachers understand how our more hesitant eaters might have challenges and to anticipate challenges within a lesson and the activities of the lesson, and to help them get through that lesson by giving them more confidence, by allowing them to uh, modify the experience in a way that makes them more comfortable. And this really means a lot to the kids who might typically not feel included in these cooking lessons. A lot of parents of kids with special needs express how excited they are that their kids can participate and they are enjoying the lessons so much. And we find that these tips embedded in the lessons are very helpful, not just for those kids with special needs, but can really help a lot of kids as they're getting used to new foods. I included this slide in here because we are experiencing more and more early Head Start programs that are interested in including these younger learners in the food adventure. And so we are going back to so many Head Start programs, offering them the chance to include early Head Start classrooms in the adventure. And we even have programs with infants and toddlers that are modifying the lessons so that even their infants can do very age-appropriate exposure to some of these foods. What the teachers tell us is that when the students come with the experience in those earlier years, they're much more apt to try foods, to be engaged, and to really feel an ease around these new foods. So an important part of Farm to ECE is also parent involvement, and that is true for the food adventure as well. So we've created a lot of communication between the teachers in classroom and the parents. First of all, there is a very robust parent manual that is offered to all the parents that has very similar approach so that the language that parents use mirrors what's used in the classroom. And then every month we provide, the teachers will provide that recipe back to the family so they can try the recipes at home. And then there's a feedback sheet that communicates how the child experienced that new fruit or vegetable using all of their senses. There's a lot of other interesting ways that the teachers and schools will communicate with parents through private Facebook groups, live Facebook group lessons, through parent-teacher conferences. Bringing teachers in to help with the lessons can be a great way to show parents what's happening and how much their kids can enjoy food exploration. Because really, we want this to be a multi-generational solution. We know that modeling is really important. So we want to set these parents up for success and be able to help shift the culture at home to include more cooking and more food preparation together. So a lot of our parent resources too have links back to our website. And if you haven't been on our website, we have a very robust set of resources, recipes, blog posts, recipe creation tools, all kinds of things that can support families in preparing easy, budget-friendly, quick, delicious meals every day. So this is our website, and I wanted to show you a tool on our website called the Meal-O-Matic. This is a recipe tool where you can pick from a framework of recipes, pick ingredients that you have on hand, and then create a recipe together. And kids love this because it is super fun, it's dynamic, they can pick ingredients that they feel safe with, or if there are food restrictions, they can pick safe foods for them. They can watch the video and then they can see how they can make those foods easily together. So that's a fun tool. If you haven't experienced that or seen that, I would jump on and take a look. It's called the Meal-O-Matic. So what teachers say about the food adventure is that they actually feel after the training more confident in teaching nutrition to preschool age kids, that they are enjoying their students are enjoying the lessons, that it's easier to implement than they expected. We know that teachers are doing many things, so we've tried to make it as easy to implement as possible. And what we really love as a public health organization is that we are shifting the way that teachers are eating at home or using food experiences with their family and experiencing tasting more foods with their family. And so we love to see that that is happening in the homes of teachers too, and that ultimately, hopefully, they are serving as even better models for food exploration and food curiosity, really. So I wanted to just highlight some of the synergies between our food adventure and farm to school and farm to ECE. So obviously we're teaching acceptance of novel foods. We are doing a lot of hands-on learning and skill development. There's a big parent engagement component. Promoting healthy habits is top line. Enriching learning, supporting the local economy, and then other ways may be really supporting teachers with this framework of development. And then, of course, an evidence-based approach to improving feeding attitudes and behaviors. And I'll share a little bit of that evidence. So we actually did a study in the later days of the pandemic in 2021 and 22 with a sample of 614 Head Start students in northern Alabama. The mean age of these students was 4. And we looked at their weight status at the beginning of the curriculum implementation over 1 year. The average number of sessions completed was 6 monthly sessions. And this was in, I may have said this, northern Alabama. So we looked specifically at the teachers' rating of their students' food fussiness and also food enjoyment. And so we asked these teachers, who were typically having 15 eating experiences a week with their students, so they knew these students' eating habits pretty well, how they experienced food and food fussiness. And what we found was a statistically significant decrease in food fussiness. We also found an increase in food enjoyment scores, which was also statistically significant. So, basically kids were enjoying eating more. They were looking forward to meal times. They were interested in food. They were having fun at the table. We also looked at their baseline weight status. So those kids who were in the healthy weight category, the beginning of the year had virtually no change in their weight status, but those kids who were underweight actually had a 26.4 percentile point increase in BMI. And the high weight kids, so kids who started the year with BMI over the 85th percentile, had a 17.6 percentile point decrease. So there is some suggestion that this multisensory exploration and growth mindset with food may have some effect in normalizing both high and low weight. And our organization is really committed to improving or expanding our research in many areas, including looking at actual fruit and vegetable intake, microbiome research, and we're always looking for schools and research partners to partner on that kind of research in the future. So this is just a slide that I put together, and I will be sending a follow-up along with Tricia with some of these resources. So if you can't grab these QR codes, no worries. Look in your email and you'll find all of these resources hyperlinked for you. The Meal-O-Matic is one that I think could be really helpful to share and fun. And then we have a very robust kid-tested recipe catalog with a lot of search capability in different fields. So a lot of the tags that we use are around food restrictions, food sensitivities, and allergies. We also have a WIC food package tag, which is using 75% of the ingredients from the WIC food package. There are recipes for more hesitant eaters called our Kids Club recipes. So we have a few hundred of these recipes, all analyzed by our dietitians as well and tested by real kids and families. We also have a place called Dr. Yum's Favorite Foods, which is a catalog of some of our favorite, most nutritious foods where families can go and figure out how do you store and handle it? Where is this food coming from? What's the best way to introduce it to a first-time eater? And then it also shows all of the recipes on our catalog that may have that favorite food in case families want to try it in different ways and different preparations. We also have a handout on tips for picky eaters or picky eating. That also comes with a little video sharing my pediatrician's top tips. And then lastly, for ECEs that do have younger kids, we have a whole series developed with the Partnership for a Healthier America on early feeding development. And so following the typical well visit schedules, these are handouts that are given out a lot by pediatricians, outlining things like responsive feeding, how you can introduce foods safely in the infant period, how to advance foods, toddler feeding issues. These are all free resources that early care educators can access very easily, and they're free on our website. So I just wanted to share a couple of last thoughts about our experience with food services heroes. Like Brian Kiernan, he is a food services director in the Fredericksburg City Public Schools, and he was the one who championed the food adventure in the very first Head Start in 2014 in our own district, because he and his team were really dedicated to serving the best, highest quality meals for our district from pre-K to high school. But he was frustrated with decreased participation and decreased interest in fruits and vegetables. And so he brought our curriculum to Head Start in 2014. And over the 10 years, he has been tracking food waste, the amount of participation, and also expenditure on fruits and vegetables. And what he's found is in these 10 years, amongst all of the different levels of his district, he's seeing an increased uptake of fruits and vegetables, and the percentage of dollars spent on produce has increased significantly. And he now is buying more produce per head than any school in Virginia. A lot of the kiddos that started off in pre-K doing the food adventure are now in middle school and high school, and they're still practicing fruits and vegetables. So we are now in the middle of a kindergarten pilot in our district to see if bringing that practicing mindset to a larger group in kindergarten can have a similar, even greater effect. He's also seen an increase in breakfast participation and lunch participation as well. Heidi and I actually had the great fortune to recently visit a large Head Start program in Columbus, Ohio, and they have been on the adventure and expanding the reach of the adventure. And that has been spearheaded by another food services hero who, like Brian Kiernan, was really looking to find a way to bring our approach, that practicing mindset, and food experience into the classroom and really create a bridge between himself and the teachers using food as development and learning rather than thinking of food as a separate experience than learning. He wanted to create this bridge. And so he saw us at a conference a year before in Ohio that we were participating in. He went back to his food services and nutrition team and said, we need to bring this adventure to our district. So not only did we begin implementation, but they actually wanted us to come out and train them in person. So we went out last week actually and trained 200 plus new food services staff and instructors on this practicing mindset. We were able to bring their kits to them. And the one takeaway that we got was that this partnership between food services and instructors can be really incredible in leveraging this information. Everyone now speaking the same language about food and using the techniques that we taught them, those speech language pathology therapy techniques, the language to help kids who are struggling with eating. And it was just a beautiful experience to be in their company, and we're really looking forward to seeing how they progress in the adventure this year. So with that, I'm going to leave even a little bit more time for some questions. If you are interested in following us, we included this slide for you. And I'm going to stop sharing here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fernando. That was a remark. You have such remarkable resources, and the research that you shared to wrap it all up was also very helpful. I tried my best to note some of the questions that I got from the chat. I think one of the last ones actually got answered by Heidi, but we'll revisit that later on since it got a second. But let me start with Alexandria's question, who asked, would you be willing to share a study or particular literature that I can cite to folks when sharing the statistic of how it can take 2 to 47, the quote, 2 to 47 exposures?
Yep, I sure can. I will find that citation. I have it somewhere handy. And perhaps, Trisha, I can share it with you and you can pass that on to the group.
Certainly. Thank you. And then I think the one about the kid safe metal knife was also answered, but just wanted to acknowledge that question was asked. And then Jordan and a couple folks also asked the question about CACFP. So are there resources for programs that are funded through CACFP and under their guidelines?
Yep. This year, our dietitian completed a CACFP alignment, which is in our instructor portal, so that folks who are participating in CACFP can find, roughly how the ingredients from the recipes in our adventures can be credited for CACFP.
Got it. Thank you, Dr. Fernando. I know when we were preparing for this webinar, we also talked a little bit about teacher buy-in. So while we're waiting for some folks here to ask more questions, and again, if you have a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself. But I did have one question to share, which is around telling us a little bit about your process in getting teacher buy-in, any success stories that you would like to highlight for our audience here.
Yeah, I think the joy around the curriculum is sort of a natural contagion, I would say. So I shared with you the research from Alabama. That's a great example of how the joy and excitement spread. So that district really started as a 6-classroom pilot, and that was funded and organized by a community action partnership of North Alabama. And those 6 classrooms were having so much fun with the adventure. And the teachers, the instructors, were so excited about the results they were seeing, the fact that kids with special needs were feeling included. This was a community where there was a lot of the population was rural, and so access to food is very difficult. And they were seeing how these kids were getting an opportunity to practice foods that they may not have access to easily. And so what happened that year was these teachers were so vocal about their excitement of the program, they went around to other parts of the state talking about it. And other teachers then said, well, we need to be doing this too. So they went back to the Community Action Partnership and asked for the curriculum. And so luckily that Community Action Partnership was very resourceful, found the funding to then implement the program in an additional 120 classrooms. And they have been on the adventure since. It's through their dedication and hard work that we were able to collect that data. So we often will start with a pilot because we know that teachers have a lot to do. There's a lot of coordination when bringing in a new program, even though it is easy to implement. And the survey results show that it's often a mental, barrier to overcome of starting something new. So we often will suggest that a district start with a few classrooms of dedicated teachers who they know will champion the program well. And then typically teachers will start to see what fun they're having and ask for the program themselves. And it seems to be a very natural, easy way to bring a program when people are already bought into it.
Thank you. Well, why don't we open it up in the next few minutes here for any folks to unmute themselves and ask question while we have Dr. Young Project here. Sarah Jackson, go ahead.
Hi, I have some questions about your surveys and sort of like narrative data collection. Um, just a little background. I'm part of a training and technical assistance program that kind of intersects with what the Dr. Young Project is doing. Um, we are part of a neighborhood organization here in New York City. So not only does our building house a Head Start program for 3 and 4 year olds, our particular program also leaves our sort of home base, and we train other programs primarily early childhood education, but also K through 12, many of whom are complying with CACFP and some who aren't. And a lot of what we do is gathering feedback and like setting goals over time. I'm curious if some of these surveys are available as a resource on your website. I really liked how they were formatted and geared towards parents. I think
Mhm.
a lot of times we get interactions with the kids in the classroom, teachers, but I love that sort of feedback. Something that we try to do is track with our 3 and 4 year olds here, changing tastes over time. And the people who can best talk about that are their families or people that they're sharing with this at home. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about that, or even if it's not available, how you came to maybe develop this.
Yeah, so the questions that we asked, and Sarah, I'm not sure if this part you're also referring to, the survey questions that we asked teachers around feeding behaviors are part of the child behavior questionnaire. So they're a validated set of questions, and we took a subset called the food fussiness subset of the child behavior questionnaire. And happy to provide you links to that set of questions. Um, I am not a researcher myself, but we worked with research partners at Duke and UNC and chose those questions. And they're pretty available, but I'm happy to help facilitate that. And then the other questions around implementation for the teachers were ones that we developed years ago, and I can't remember if those were validated questions or not, to be honest, but I'm happy to share those questions with you too.
Amazing. Thank you. Any information is helpful. So thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sharing that.
Of course, of course.
Thank you, Sarah. If you don't mind sending me an email, I can connect you or dropping your email in the chat too, Sarah. Thank you for
Okay.
asking that question. I think we have one room for one more question if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a question.
Hello, my name is Jason Obermeyer from Jackson, Michigan. I'm the owner of Gems of Jackson Early Childhood Development Center. It's 24/7 state licensed daycare in Jackson, Michigan. Also a founder and director of the Welcome Home organization who implemented an urban garden We're tracked by the USDA. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to reiterate the importance of access to fresh food to the youth. We have seen firsthand um, the change in behavior, the change in motor skills, the change in bowel movements. All of these things have just increased their levels tremendously from when we first started 2 years ago. So I just wanted to congratulate you on all of your work and everyone here. We're all in this together, and I just, I thank you very much for really putting everything together like this. This was a lot of information, and I just appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. As a pediatrician, it is I played this game of connect the dots and seeing the symptomatology that can be directly or indirectly attributed to diet and uh, things like constipation, even urinary tract issues because of constipation, they are connected to the diet. And so we have a lot of great stories of kids who are getting off of medications because they're exploring foods more and feeling better, behavior is better. So yeah, we should all be proud of these downstream effects that some of us never even get to hear about or see, but they are happening. As a pediatrician, I'll tell you that this is improving the lives of kids profoundly.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jason, for sharing that kudos and that comment. And thank you, Dr. Fernando, for leading us through this webinar. We're basically at time. I just wanted to reiterate, we are going to put together a kind of resource, compile all the resource, share the recording from this webinar. And also, since I talked about the National Farm to School Network, if you're not a partner already, we have lots of engagements like this that we do throughout the year. I dropped the link to our network page, so please stay in touch. And then, yeah, if you need to stay on, I can stay on for an extra minute or two if you have questions. But thank you all for your time today. And thank you, Dr. Fernando. And thank you, Dr. Young Project and Heidi for being here today. Appreciate you.
Thank you.